A Rose for Emily, written by William Faulkner. There are two important aspects to the introduction, that is the setting and then the subject and topic of the story. The setting of the story is a southern town known as Jefferson, and it is important because it pertains to the attitudes of the characters or the townspeople, and it also just helps you imagine the house which is brought up in the story. And the next is the topic or subject of the story, which the story is just about Miss Emily Gerson's life. She was the last of the Gersons in that town of Jefferson, and it just talks about her life leading up to her death. As for the characters, there are 6 major characters in this short story. The first and main character of the story is Emily Gerson. When Emily was younger, she was very bright, but after her father died, and as she aged, she became more secluded. As she aged, she also became very plump and had a lot of gray hair. The next character is Homer Barron. He was from the north, had a darker skin complexion, bright eyes, good sense of humor, and admired Emily a lot. Next is Judge Stevens. He was the mayor of Jefferson and 80 years old. Next, Mr. Gerson, who was Emily's father. He was very controlling over Emily when he was alive, and even after he died, he was still controlling. Toby was Emily's servant and only contact with the outside world. And then Colonel Sartoris, former mayor of Jefferson, took away any taxes for Emily after her father died because her father paid a large sum to the town and he didn't think she owed the town anything. The layout of the story was in 5 different parts. And in part 1, it recalls the time of her death. Emma goes back and tells how the mayor is trying to get her to pay her taxes again. Part 2 takes the story back 30 years ago. A smell was emanating from Emily's house, and so the mayor and some men went around at night and they sprinkled lime around the foundation. And Emily's father also died in this part, and people came to pay their condolences, but Emily would refuse to admit that her father was dead, and it took 3 days to admit to herself that her father had died. In part 3, the new construction worker for the town was Homer, and he became very fascinated with Emily, and they began their courtship, but the townspeople disapproved because they thought he wasn't good enough for her because her family had a higher reputation. And as the part goes on, Emily goes out and buys arsenic from a drugstore and doesn't give her purpose, which is required by law, but she doesn't anyways, and so when it arrives, it has a note that says 4 rats. Part 4, the townspeople believe she will kill herself with that arsenic, and but then as she starts to buy wedding outfit for Homer and stuff, they begin to talk about the wedding again, and Homer goes into Emily's house one night and is never seen again. And so we can assume that she used the arsenic for Homer. And Emily still refuses to pay the taxes and closes off the top floor to her house. In part 5, the story closes with Emily's funeral, and then people finally open that sealed door to the upstairs and find a room perfectly preserved for a wedding. All the wedding clothes are laid out, Homer's dead body is decayed on the bed, and on the pillow next to him a head imprint in the pillow and a gray hair. For the themes, I chose the house because it is a large structure, but it is kind of like an eyesore now because it was built way back when, and now everything else is modernized, so it represents her because she is separated from everyone else and is still old-fashioned. And the house represents the past because it's constant there and it hasn't changed even though the surroundings have. And the next I chose was the hair because it shows that we sometimes do crazy things for love, and that she didn't care what people said. She wanted Homer, and so she did that even though killing him was her way to do that. It was okay in her mind. And the narrator foreshadows it when he continues to bring up her aging and her hair changing color. And so that is a summary and certain elements of A Rose for Emily.
Created using Powtoon.